gentlemen, welcome back. It's Friday. If you saw us yesterday, you're seeing us again today.
Deja
Pete
vu.
Coles, Rich Sutter, in the zone. We wanted to be on today, folks, because it's Friday, March 21st, but it follows the first day of March Madness. Pete, what'd you think yesterday?
There's some interesting games yesterday. I caught a little snippets of here because we had something going on here yesterday, but it's interesting results.
Not too many barn burners, though.
No.
You know, there were a couple of St. John's had a 30-point victory. UCLA got away, and that happens from time to time. But nothing really, outside of, I would say, Drake's win. I don't think there was anything in there that really, or McNeese, possibly over Clemson, But I think it was all in all pretty good. Good basketball. But I'm going to go back to what we talked about a little bit yesterday. You got too many games on in one day.
Yeah.
It's just dizzying. I mean, last night I'm in front of my television. It's 9 o'clock at night. I'm entering almost full paralysis because I haven't moved all day. And you're sitting there, and it's just mind-numbing. Even the greatest basketball fans are having trouble sitting through all of that. Now, I got another shot for you. Last night I'm sitting in front of my television, and I've got on the Yale game. And I'm watching Yale, and they're giving it a great effort. They had beaten Auburn the year before, so I was really excited to see what they would do with Texas A&M last night. But Texas A&M played very, very well and prevailed. But I'm watching that game, and while I'm watching that game, I have my phone on to see what's happening in some of the other games. I've got my laptop on over here to check out some of this other stuff. But the best game of the night really was the Kansas-Arkansas game, and that was nowhere to be found on television. Going down to the end of the Yale game wasn't close. Going down to St. John's game, some of those games weren't close at the end. That Arkansas-Kansas game was a very, very good game. And honestly, I don't know why you didn't have that on television in the first place. Okay, that was your best game of the night, and you didn't have it on television. One of the best games of the entire first round, and I couldn't find it on my television. Now, I know TBS and TNT pretty much have the market there, but Pete, what are they thinking about?
You'd think you'd think almost that for something like this, and they may have it. Do they have a red zone style channel where they're displaying like look in on different games and that type of thing?
They must, and I'm sure they have it online somewhere where you can get in and buy some of these games, or maybe even have a different package where you can get all of them. But I'm just talking about for the regular fan, a little bit better on the selection. That's all I'm talking about on the games. They were good games yesterday, and it pretty much went according to plan. We'll talk a little bit about that in our next show after this one, after the whole first round is completed. But yesterday, you got hit with 16 games.
I know.
32 teams. Today, you're going to get hit with 16 games. Another 32 teams. What's to stop you from going 8-8-8-8 in your first round? What stops that, Pete?
You'd have the 4 games, and you'd have marquee games. You'd have millions and millions of eyeballs on each game.
Right. And you'd have it laid out.
Because you could do noon 2, 4, or noon 3, 6, and 9 as a primetime game.
And move your really good games into those slots, the games that you would predict, your 8-9 games, or the ones that are, viable and more competitive, move those into your really good slots as well. That's just some information. Here's some other things that I would like to see happen also. I just keep throwing these little tidbits out for the NCAA. Maybe they watch the show. Maybe they don't. I don't really know. But here's another one. No coach is allowed to take a job until after the NCAA season has concluded or unless your team has been eliminated. Now, that's going to be a bit of a problem, so I think we're going to have to go with no coaching changes until after the season. You can wait till April to fire your coach.
Yep.
You can wait till then, move the portal back, move everything into conjunction with the way things should be going, because I'm going to give McNeese State guys a lot of credit, man. Those kids came out and played their hearts out. And Will Wade is going to leave as soon as they're done. He's out the door. It's already been announced. You couldn't have kept it under wraps for a week? I don't get it. But again, I'm going to go back to that
because
because
they're playing as inspired as they are.
I was
Without-
impressed by
with
them.
knowing their coaches walking out the door.
I was impressed by them. And maybe they had a great rationale, huddle, locker rooms talk for them. Hey, we're all in this together. But, I don't know. The other piece of it is maybe some of those guys from McNeese are looking to go to NC State. I can tell you the people that I think, I saw a big hug between Will Wade and Heath Schroyer, their athletic director, and that's awesome. I love it. But right now, the people that are getting hurt in this whole thing right now are the McNeese people.
Yeah.
So it's Big East little.
How many McNeese players have just entered the portal?
Every
I bet
time.
you that team is decimated after this season.
So we have I promised you we'd bring up some portal potty information. All right? So we might as well do it right now before we jump into the games. So my assistant coach hands me a stack of papers the other day before I leave the office. And I look back at him and I go, "What's this?" And he goes, "It's the portal. Start studying." Wow. And I go, "I thought the portal didn't open until March 24th. He goes, "Me too." So we were both under the impression it started March 24th, but he's handing me at least 300 names that are on these papers.
Wow.
Okay, so here's the exemptions. I had to dig. I had to go a little deep here and figure this out. All right, the exemptions are if you're a graduate student, if you've already completed your 4 years, but you have an additional year and you're moving on as a graduate student, you're allowed to put your name in the portal prior to the opening of the portal. I guess I could live with that.
Okay.
Number 2, and this isn't bad either, I don't think. If your coach has been fired, you get an automatic 30-day window to enter the portal
At the minute he's fired.
If your coach has been fired. When he goes, it triggers a 30-day open window for the players to go into the portal.
So loyalty
before the portal opens.
Loyalty means nothing.
Well, if you're going to fire the coach, and these guys were all recruited by that coach, I think it does open it up.
Loyalty to the school, I mean. They may have loyalty to the coach.
No
because
more.
they may want to follow him.
Drop your graphic that you always drop with all the money coming down, Pete, and you'll know exactly what it is. It's raining dollars in the NCAA. Nobody's holding on to their school, and anybody who set records way back when, those records are safe.
They're rock
You're
solid.
not going to have any of your records broken.
Yeah.
You're not going to have new Hall of Famers going into these schools. I wonder who they're going to induct in their Hall of Fame. Who the school's going to put in your Hall of Fame now when your best players come for 1 year?
Well, it won't be football or basketball players, that's for sure.
Right. Who are your NIL guys that are sticking around that long? All right, Pete, quick other thing before we jump in. You and I touched on this yesterday, but it never really became more evident until yesterday when Kansas got knocked out against Arkansas. And you asked yesterday, which was, I think, one of your it's definitely a top Pete's question, Pete's Corner question. What happens here when you got the biggest bags that are out there, and we're going to start to be able to identify who's holding on to the biggest bag. Now you're going to sit there and say, oh, wait a minute, they spent all this money, and that's where they wound up? You got teams out there right now that haven't made the NCAA tournament with a big bag, and you're seeing their coaches be released of their job as well. Now you got some people that are on television, Coach Willard from Maryland last night, saying that Maryland, and really telling tales on his press conference there, that the people at Maryland, they're in almost last place as far as NIL goes. They're not having the resources that the other schools do. And when Kevin Willard asked over Christmas, this was mind-boggling, and I can't believe he brought this up, but when he asked if the basketball team could stay for one additional day in New York at Christmas time after they played in a tournament there, he was told no because it cost too much money.
What?
Now, he also dropped the fact that Damon Evans, his athletic director, is also talking to SMU to be their new athletic director. So he goes,
loyalty.
how would I negotiate with somebody who's leaving? How would I cut a new deal in my own contract with somebody who's leaving? And then Will Wade, I think in order to, it was like with Wade, I think it was, okay, I'm under the bus. Let me just grab somebody else and throw them under the bus so that 2 tires hit them and 2 tires hit me. Because Wade's under the bus for this whole McNeese NC State thing, right? And well, he should be. You know, all the hugs at half court aren't going to wash away that stain, okay? You should have waited to declare your NC State candidacy and taking the job until after the tournament was done. You should have insisted on that for your players. But they didn't. But they didn't. And so now you're in a situation where you're having an NCAA team, knows their coach is on the move, and they win a game. The narrative sticks around. Mm-hmm. It doesn't go away in one game. The narrative is going to stick around until they play again. And if they keep winning, it's going to stick around for a really,
it's going to get ugly if they win again.
Really long time. That narrative is going to be out there for a really long time.
Yeah.
All right? Pete, before we jump in here, one more thing. Carolina. That opening game, I'm going to tell people out here that, you know, might wind up in Mohegan Sun or some of these other places. You're going to look at Carolina today against Mississippi. I think that's a pretty strong pick for you today, folks. But you're looking at a situation with Carolina. People were screaming up and down they didn't belong in. I think Carolina belonged in. I didn't like the 11 seed. If you tell me they were the last team selected, I don't know how they were the last team selected, unless this is just open warfare on the ACC right now. Are they trying to destroy the ACC? I mean, Louisville played in the ACC championship game against Duke. Duke is a number 1 seed. Where did they seed Louisville? 8. So are they explicitly trying to do in some of these other conferences so that the Big Five rises? And right now, if you ask me, the ACC is right in that scope. The ACC is right in that scope. And part of the reason that you have people like Coach K and some others bandying about the idea that possibly the ACC and the Big East should form a conference of super conferences, I just didn't hear the other shoe drop from that whole thing about what are you going to do with everybody else? What happens with all the teams that don't make it? Where will they go? New conference for them? Or will they all coagulate into, so what you're saying is we should take the best teams out of the Big East, St. John's, UConn, none of them have football, and then we're going to match them up with all of the teams who ran away from the Big East because they didn't have football in this new super power basketball conference, and that's going to make it work. I don't get it. I don't get it. But hey, that's Coach K. When he speaks, they listen. When he speaks, they listen.
It's seriously, with the money out there, there's going to be no love lost at these schools between sports, and the sports are going to get more and more divided. Football and basketball are going to get divided, and you're going to see that conferences don't mean diddly squat anymore.
Pete, what about when the money gets short? Let me ask you this.
Football's king.
Football's king, but they got to feed 120 mouths. Before too long, eventually people might come to the realization that football is king, yeah, because there's a lot of national interest in it. But as far as return on investment and marketing and dollars and cents go, you're much better off with some other sports and trying to move them up. Now, what we had always thought was that they would coincide together, you know, and they always did. But then football wanted more games. They wanted to encroach a little bit deeper into basketball season. And basketball wanted more games, and they wanted to expand their season. And now you have the two of them at every university completely, and I mean completely, unless they can figure out some great collaboration and collegiality there, they're going to be at odds with each other internally. The own program, internally, North Carolina's football program is now going to be waging war against North Carolina's basketball program.
Yeah.
You didn't anticipate that one, did you? You didn't see that one coming down the road, did you? And this is all we're trying to tell you on In the Zone. We're going to give it to you straight, all right? And we're going to give it to you as best we can. But the things that pop into my brain right now, we were just sitting at lunch, Pete and I, and the name Charlie Baker came up. And we, Pete and I both just shook our heads and said, Charlie Baker's the Trojan horse.
Yeah.
Charlie Baker was the Politico that was brought in to run this whole thing over the top. And now you see it's all, we're just following the law. And if you watched some of the exchange on some of the congressional testimony, especially with some of the Republican congressmen, they're saying, no, you didn't follow the law. You went well above and beyond what the law required in order to make yourself look good and in order to satisfy some of your political cronies, because that had to be it. You don't all of a sudden have this massive shift in athletics without having somebody come in and administer that massive shift and sit there and say absolutely nothing while it was going on to further take the NCAA down another peg and decrease their relevance unbelievably so in the matter of just 3 years.
I'm telling you, if you're an investigative journalist, you need to look into that company that's running the NIL clearinghouse. Who's behind it? Where's that money for that company? Remember I brought it up in one of my questions a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
Who's running that? Who's behind that? Because they're running all the NIL connections and deals and stuff like that. Who's running that and who's benefiting from that? For all the money.
That's a great question. Here's the other piece, Pete. When I look at some of the basketball being played right now, and this is just me as a longtime follower, person who's been associated with the game for a while, when I watch the games right now, I look at the program and I say, you're paying the players a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Never has there been more resource steeped into football and basketball than there ever has been in history before. Why don't your players play hard then?
Yeah.
Because the effort, the quality of effort is not there. We're not going as hard as we can go. We're not giving everything we have for this university. And I wondered about that. I'm sitting in my little room in my chair and I'm sitting there going, man, do they not love the game anymore?
Business.
Do these young men not play for love of the game at all anymore?
It's a business.
Or is it just strictly what Pete's saying? Is it just strictly contractual
business,
now?
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Pete. There's no contracts.
But it's transactional.
It is, but there's no contracts which binds this whole thing together. So what I'm saying is when you look at, and this is just me going, when you look at all the lack of effort, and I've had conversations with people about the intimate nature of their NIL deal. I say to one person, I say, what's our NIL budget? Oh, it's got to be up near $1 million. Okay. How much do we have right now? This is in the middle of the year. Now, we're supposed to have $1 million budget. How much do we have right now? $700,000. So if we can't get the other 300 together, so this is what I'm trying to tie in. Is that a reason for the lack of effort? Is that a reason because the promises made are not met? We look at Florida State. You look at some of these places that are now suing, which says we were promised money by the coach, which we never got. Is that one of the reasons that we're having this lack of effort? Because the promises that are being made are not being met. And instead of having a contract in place, which would say, wait a second, you promised $250K, but you only paid $150. Where's the rest of the money? There's no contract that says that right now.
Yeah.
So these young men, as much as everybody thinks they've been put in a really, really good place, they kind of got a little bit of a target on them in many, many more ways than they used to. And Pete, we talked about Nilly on our show. You're talking about this company that has almost full total control of it. Who do you think runs it? Who you think runs it?
Like to find out.
Uncle Sam. Big Uncle Sam, most likely. All right, that's enough of that, folks. We're going to jump into it. Here's how we're going to break our show down for you today. We had a show yesterday, Thursday. We told you what was happening, and we told you what we thought might come. Now we can actually tell you what has happened, and then the second half of this, we're going to look into what's going on today, Friday. Second day, 32 teams, 16 games. They're probably on right now, Pete. So Pete might be able to jump in and give us a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Game one, all right, Gonzaga against Georgia. I did not think that the bottom four teams in the SEC were worthy of an at-large bid. I have no problem with Carolina, number 5, going into the tournament, number 5 in the ACC with 22 victories. I got no problem with them going into the NCAA tournament. I have no problem with them not going to the NIT. I have zero problem with that. But when they went to 14 teams in the SEC, you just said to me, we're just going to Power 5 this thing all the way down to the end. We don't care about Cinderella anymore. We don't care about these mid-majors. George Mason, your 26 wins. We don't care. If Drake hadn't won their conference and Drake just won last night, they wouldn't have gotten in at 30 wins. What else do you want them to do, NCAA selection committee? When we were going on RPI, why do you think they changed the RPI, Pete? Because mid-majors were getting in.
Yeah.
Mid-majors were getting in, and then you had George Mason go to the Final Four. Coach Caputo was on that team, was on that staff. George Mason made that huge Cinderella run all the way to the Final Four. I tell you, between you and me, Pete, I think that they tried to kill Cinderella. They're trying to kill Cinderella. She's certainly back in the basement, certainly back in the dungeon. All right, the Gonzaga game was not close, Pete. 89-68. The big kid Newell from Georgia went for 20 and 8. I like him. I like him as an NBA draft pick. But Khalif Battle comes out for Gonzaga, 24 and 8. 24 and 8. Gonzaga. Pete, hold your hat for this one. They were 12 of 20 from three-point range. They shot over 50% from three-point range. Unbelievable. That was a big, big factor in the game. Georgia just never could really get going. On an 8-9 game, to lose that game by 21 points, I think you just proved my point out. Prove my point. The Kansas-Arkansas game was an anomaly for this, but we're going to go through it and talk a little bit about that as well. All right? But Gonzaga moves on. Who does Gonzaga get the pleasure of playing right now, Pete? Houston. Houston, you got a problem. Because this Gonzaga team, you're great on defense. This Gonzaga team, Mark Few's teams are always really good on offense, and they were cooking with gasoline last night. It's like when you watch that Rocky movie and he tells Apollo Creed, hey, boss, you might want to come in here and watch this guy. This guy's killer. He's hitting this big slab of beef over here. Well, that same thing. You better watch that Gonzaga tape a couple of times, Coach Sampson, because they are now cooking with gasoline. Mark Few and the Sweet 16, they go hand in hand, folks. So there's going to be a really, really good matchup. But hats off to Gonzaga. They came in with a 9 seed, and they won their conference, came in at a 9. I didn't think they belonged at 9, but 89-68 over Georgia, Pete. Good game for them. Creighton and Louisville. This was a game that I thought Louisville, after coming out of the ashes of the ACC, finishing almost dead last, or they were dead last year, and then making a coaching change. Pat Kelsey comes in, boom, they finish second in an 18-team conference, second, all the way up to the top, and wound up getting an 8 seed, and I really didn't think it was warranted. Creighton got a 9 seed. I didn't think that was warranted as well. But this Creighton team, this guy McDermott can coach his tail off. 89-75, Louisville never, ever really in that game. And now you've got Creighton for the big victory that they have. Now they get matched up with Auburn. Again, if you're Auburn and you're Coach Pearl, you're sitting in there watching your film room, and you know how inconsistent your guys can be on defense. You know how lack of attention to detail your guys have, and then you're watching this Creighton team come out and just go lights out, fundamental ABC, 1, 2, 3, and you better be sitting there going, this is not a good matchup for my team. We better get them ready. We better get them ready. BYU versus VCU. Very, very good game. I was happy to see Igor Demon under the lights. Very, very good pro prospect. Probably a first-round pick. He went for 15 points and 4 assists. BYU beat them 80-71. But I thought VCU held their own and gave the A-10 a really good shot there. It was a good game, and I thought the A-10 for the last couple of years has been slighted because of the new measurement tools, and they're not getting multiple bids like I think that they should. A-10 is a great, great conference, folks. McNeese versus Clemson. My God, this was not close for a while. Then Clemson came all the way charging back. Brad Brownell knocked out, but recently has a new 6-year, bigger, better deal. Thank goodness that happened before the first-round knockout, because people are so crazy these days. They might have been calling for him to be fired after that. 69-67, Christian Shoemate from McNeese, 13-11, and they were just really, it was a surprise to me, but they mauled Clemson on the backboards, 43-36 in rebounding edge, and that was really a deciding factor in the game. McNeese moves up, and this is a game McNeese can win. They're playing Purdue. Purdue hung on yesterday, 75-63 over High Point. Very well coached High Point team. Very good year for them. Great mid-major, but they forgot to block out as well. They gave up 19 offensive rebounds to Purdue, 45-24 rebound margin. You had Braden Smith, one of the best point guards in the country, go for 20 points, 6 assists, and their other great player, Trey Kaufman-Wren, went for 21 and 8 rebounds. Unbelievable. But again, it was just a game of the boards. If you're going to give up 19 offensive rebounds and allow them to kick out for open threes and wide open putbacks, it's going to be a long night. 19 offensive rebounds turns into 50 points very quickly. Wisconsin and Montana. That was a game I thought the Grizzlies might hang a little bit, but this Wisconsin team's for real. This Wisconsin team has John Tanji, and they also have the Stephen Crow, who's really good player as well. He had 18 points and 4 rebounds in the game when he averages 9 points and 5 rebounds. So there's a few guys here that absolutely broke out of their yearly averages and had monster games yesterday. 85-66 Wisconsin over Montana. Auburn, Alabama State has that great win over St. Francis, PA. We showed the long bomb, the tip, the Doug Flutie, Hail Mary, and boom, the prayers were answered for Alabama State. Their prayers weren't answered, however, when they got to play Auburn. 83-63. Broome, 14-11. Unbelievable game. Miles Kelly came in with 23 points, 7 of 15 from three-point range. 23 of his 21 points came from 23 points total, 21 of them came from behind the arc. I've got one even better than that coming up later. But again, 83-63, good for Auburn to recalibrate, but Alabama State isn't really the caliber of Creighton, of what you're going up against now. Not really that caliber. All right, so now you got Houston, really came out last night, and I was impressed. I've been impressed, but I was really impressed with their first game preparation to detail. 78-40, 38-point victory, and holding a team to 40 points in today's college basketball environment is not easy. When you see, we used to have a thing on our board where we called them sub-50s. Anytime we held a team under 50 points, we put a check mark up there. And so we would keep a board of that and then keep a relevance to that. You hold somebody in an NCAA tournament to 40 points, that's unbelievable. Houston had 4 players in double figures. They've got great balance. They play great defense. And if you want to know how good their defense is, SIU, Edwardsville, 2 for 24 from three-point range.
Ouch.
That's not going to help. That's why you wound up with 40. Tennessee, Wofford. I'm going to talk about Drake a little bit later in this show, but there's a real point there I want to make, and a real juxtaposition to what everybody else is doing here that this guy's not doing. Tennessee, Wofford, 77-62. Wofford had a Cinderella run all the way up, got into the tournament championship game and won. Came up against a really tough Tennessee team last night. Chaz Lanier, one of their great players, lights it up, 29 points, 5 rebounds. He was 6 of 13 from three-point range. And when you give up 6 open three-pointers to somebody and they make 6, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. That was really, they lost by 15. They gave up 18 points in three-pointers to him. Okay, Arkansas, Kansas, the best game of the night. The absolute best game of the night. Really good competition. And Pete, let's go back to your question from yesterday. Return on investment, the biggest bag. You think Kansas got a big bag, Pete?
Yep.
You think they dumped a whole lot of that on Hunter Dickinson?
Yep.
I don't even know if I'd put him in our draft board, Pete. Never been a big fan of his. Wasn't excited when they drafted him. And look at all of the other players that are out there right now doing great stuff that Kansas could have attracted had they not signed Hunter Dickinson. That's the new game, folks. Return on investment. You have the bag. What did you do with your bag? Arkansas got a huge bag, but at least they got through. 79-72. John Yell Davis, you remember that name from FAU fame. The Final Four run they had, he had 18 points. Jonas Adu averages 6 points and 4.8 rebounds for Arkansas. He came out and had 22 and 5 last night. Big blow up, and against Kansas. And he's an inside player. He went right at Dickinson all night long. I give Calipari credit for finding the weak spot on that Kansas defense. All right, Texas A&M and Yale, really good game. I was excited to watch this because Yale gave Auburn a beatdown the year before, knocked them out, but wasn't to happen this year. Texas A&M 80-71 over Yale. Pharrell Payne comes in, 25 points, 10 rebounds, OTB, Pete. OTB means off the bench.
Yeah.
He didn't start the game. 25 and 10. Wow.
Taking a look in on Baylor, Mississippi State.
This is going to be a good one. This is going to be, if you like athletic basketball, you're going to see some great athletic basketball here. VJ Edgecombe, unbelievable. North Shore or Mir, unbelievable for Baylor. And then you've got Josh Hubbard for Mississippi State. Cam Matthews is a guy. Keep an eye on today, Pete, because I like this guy, Cam Matthews. I think he's going to wind up on our draft board. Didn't really have the great year that I thought he would. All right, Pete, I'm going to throw a name at you now, and I want everybody to get ready for this because he could be the new NCAA face poster child for Cinderella. Drake beats Missouri last night, 67-57. Bennett Sturtz. Bennett Sturtz is his name. 21 points, 4 assists. If you can get a graphic of him up there, I would love to see it later on in the show. We'll show you what Bennett Sturtz looked like. It's amazing that this young man plays basketball at the high level he does. But here's the point I wanted to make about Drake, Pete. Drake, how many threes did they shoot yesterday in that game against Missouri? 10.
Oh, wow.
Only 10. And they were 5 for 10. 50%. Unbelievable. But they don't go to the three ball like everybody else does. And I think that's their benefit. Might be one of the reasons that this guy McCollum wins as much as he does. But you see them now matched up against Texas Tech, and that's going to be a barn burner. Texas Tech had a very good win yesterday, and they are loaded. But this Drake team took out one of the most athletic teams in the entire tournament, Missouri. So get ready. Look at that team going into some distance here because they're very, very good. And Pete, you know what's funny? McCollum brought up 4 of his Division II players with him. And those guys are all clocking minutes. There's my guy, Bennett. Look at this guy. How is he, one of the lead guards on a major conference program, comes out with 21 and 4? I'll tell you why. Because this kid can ball. He can ball out. Bennett Sturtz. Keep that name up, folks. He's going to be something big. UCLA, Utah State. I was shocked at this one, Pete. Mick Cronin comes out, boom, 72-47 over Utah State. Utah State's been a really, really good program. They've had 3 different coaches just in the last 3 years. Each one of them went to the NCAA tournament and moved on. Odom, the guy at VCU, being one of them. Ade Mara is 7'3", Pete. He comes off the bench for UCLA, and he had 5 blocks, OTB, off the bench. Now, here's a Hollywood, Los Angeles name for you, Pete, for the UCLA people. Sky Clark. Unbelievable game for Mr. Clark. 4 of 7 from three-point range. They get the benefit of seeing Tennessee next. Boy, there's some great games that are going to be in this next round on the Thursday side. Gonzaga, Houston, Creighton, Auburn. Unbelievable games coming up here, folks. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. All right. UC San Diego. I gave you this game as a possibility yesterday as an upset. UC San Diego lost to Michigan 68-65. Dusty May, the guy does an unbelievable job coaching. The guy's just a really good coach. Michigan started the game 10-0. 10-0 to start the game, and it was a credit to UC San Diego for fighting back as well as they did. Vlad, my big guy, Vlad Golden, I love this guy. 14 points, 7 rebounds, and about a week or two ago, he gets engaged to his fiancée out on midcourt at Michigan. Vlad, congratulations, big fella. You're going to do great in the pros, too. We've got you on a first-round pick in our draft selection. Vlad Golden will be a first-round pick in the zone draft selection. Him and his fiancée will have a little bit of wedding money to spread around there. Omaha, Pete. Omaha, St. John's, everybody's like, this Omaha team. I said, have you watched St. John's recently? This Omaha team will not stand a chance, and they did not. 83-53. Omaha, 5 of 36. The switching defense of Coach Pitino is throwing all of these three-ballers into disarray. He's switching big guys onto these guards. Now they can't get their shot off. They're switching quick players onto bigger players, and they're able to match because they have great athleticism and depth and height. Now, Arkansas St. John's, that's a barn burner. That's an absolute barn burner, Pete. That's going to be an absolute great game. 83-53. Omaha, 5 of 36 for 13% from three-point range. You might want to call Coach McCollum on the phone and say, how can we get rid of these 26 threes and get ourselves into a better situation? Holy smokes, Pete, we're flying. UC San Diego, Michigan, we were worried about this game. 68-65, Vlad took care of business. UNC Wilmington, Texas Tech, 82-72. JT Toppin, 12, 11, and 3. Kerwin Walton, he averages 6 points a game. He went 8 for 19 from three-point range, Pete. He went 8 for 19 from the field. My man Kerwin thinks they got an easy pass line out there. You got to pay a toll if he goes past that three-point line. He goes line to line, and he just jacks them all day long. 8 for 19. Mr. Kerwin Walton. Elijah Hawkins from Texas Tech, great guard. 10 assists, love it. Texas Tech, though, they took 46 threes in this game. 13 of 46. I don't get it. I don't get it, Pete. Pete, we're moving and grooving, though. We got to jump now, though, because we've got about half of the slate to do today, and just keep it rolling. We're just going to keep it rolling, Pete, because there is so much going on. But here we go with today's slate of games, and there are some good ones. Pete right now has in the little inlet that we have in the inset, he has the Baylor, Mississippi game here right now, 8-9 game. Watch this game, folks, because you're going to see some great athletes. Again, Hubbard and Matthews, and then you got Edgecombe and Normir.
Right now, Baylor's up by 2.
Baylor up 2. I think that's going to be a really, really good game. I think folks are going to love that game. Robert Morris in Alabama. Bobby Moe gets a 15 seed. Unbelievable. Alabama gets the 2. All right? 26-8 for Robert Morris. 25-8 for Alabama. But the boys from Robert Morris are going home today, and it probably isn't going to be good. I hope they can hold around, but this Alabama team is legit. Alabama team is one of the teams I have in the Final Four. Lipscomb versus Ohio State. The Lippies, 14th seed. Iowa State, 3 seed, playing without Kashad Gilbert, though. That's going to be a problem. They're down to 1 guard, and I don't know if it's going to work for them. The injuries have hampered them. It's impacted their play, and I don't think the Lippies are going to give them a whole lot of trouble today, but they could get tightened up in their next round. But you got 25-9 and 24-9. Lipscomb having an amazing year. Listen to some of the records on these mid-major teams. Just unbelievable. All right. Iowa State, they're a team that could get bumped, though. I'm putting them out there. Colorado State, Memphis, okay? I'm going to give you something here, folks. The people in Vegas think Colorado State's winning this game because they're a 12 seed, and Memphis is a 5 seed, and I thought Memphis got a bad seed. Memphis is 29-5. Colorado State is 25-9. Colorado State is a 12 seed. Memphis is a 5 seed. Colorado State's favored in the game, folks. Those are some things that should make you go, All right? But I like Memphis. P.J. Haggerty, they got a great team. And Penny Hardaway has done an absolutely fabulous job of coaching this year. Colorado State Rams are tough, though. We'll see. 25-9. Mount St. Mary's, 16th seed. You get the Dukies of Durham. They're a 1 seed. 31-3 for Duke. 23-12 for Mount St. Mary's. I'd like to tell you it's going to be close, folks, and you'll get a good watch on that one, but I hope the TNT boys don't have that one on because I don't think it's going to be long before Mount St. Mary's gets sent back to Emmitsburg. All right, Vanderbilt, St. Mary's. This is a premier game of the day, folks. You got great 8-9s, you got great 10-7s in this tournament. This is a 10-7 that I want you to pay attention to. Vanderbilt is a 10. St. Mary's is a 7. Vanderbilt 20-12. St. Mary's 28-5. But I like Vanderbilt in this game. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're more athletic, and Byington does a fabulous job. I love Randy Bennett out in St. Mary's too, but holy smokes, this Vanderbilt team just came out of nowhere. I wasn't sure they belonged in with 20-12, but now that they're in, I think they're going to make something happen. North Carolina, Mississippi. I got North Carolina to the Final Four, folks. That's what I think is going to happen. And I think Duke beat them 3 times this year, and I don't think Duke's going to the Final Four. But that's why I do the show. You can go back and rewind the tape and say Sutter was crazy once again. But you got North Carolina, Mississippi after North Carolina ices Texas in a play-in game. Now you got 23-13 for North Carolina. They're 11 and 6 seed for Mississippi. I like Carolina in that game. Okay, I like Carolina in that game. Texas and Xavier met. Carolina came out and absolutely put the wood to fire, though, with their three-point shooting, where they, like Gonzaga, were over 50% shooting from three-point range. There's not a lot of time where you're going to come out and see a team shoot over 50% from three-point range and lose. I like North Carolina over Mississippi as well. Grand Canyon versus Maryland, really, really kind of interesting, I'll call it, press conference that Coach Willard had the other day. They asked him about leaving, and he went through a litany of things that Maryland doesn't have. Number one, their NIL bag isn't where he thinks it should be. He says it's one of the lowest in the Big Ten. I'm shocked at that. Absolutely shocked at that. I'm also shocked that when he asked to keep his team over in New York for a one-day period, they were told that they couldn't do it due to the expense of it. I'm a little shocked by that as well, too. But Coach Willard has been bandied about for some different jobs. He takes the opportunity to throw his AD under the bus, Damon Evans, and says, Damon Evans is going to SMU. So how can I negotiate with a guy who's not even going to be here? How can I get a new contract with a guy who's not even going to be here? I thought Coach Willard was under contract personally, but I guess they're looking to maybe redo it and do some stuff like that. A lot will matter what happens today. If you remember Grand Canyon, from a couple of years back, last year back, they made a run here. They've got a really good team, and they've got a really good coach. Keep an eye on that game. Grand Canyon versus Maryland. Norfolk State 16 against Florida. I think you're going home, Norfolk. They had made a run in previous years and gotten a win, and Coach Evans was their coach back then. I don't think that they're going to be able to survive the onslaught that Florida's going to bring their way. 24-10 for Norfolk State. 30-4 for Florida. There's going to be a big number on that game today. Troy versus Kentucky. The men of Troy are very good. I don't think they'll beat Kentucky, but I think that game's going to be pretty close. 23-10 against 22-11. Kentucky at a 3 seed I thought was preposterous. Putting Memphis at a 5 and Kentucky at a 3, it's just genuflecting to the SEC. All you're doing is genuflecting to the Power 5. New Mexico versus Marquette, a 10 and a 7. This is Richard Pitino Jr. up against Shaka. Really, really, really good matchup, I think. You're going to have Donovan Dent trying to put a dent in Shaka's Marquette team. Cam Jones from Marquette's going to be telling Donovan Dent, no, we're moving on. You're going back to New Mexico. Really, really good matchup, though. A really good matchup. Again, it's the 10-7 that I alluded to. The 8-9s and the 10-7s are where you're going to see your best games, folks. That's what I say anyway. All right, Pete, we're cooking with gasoline here. Ready for the final stretch of the show? We did one yesterday. I don't know how some of these guys do it every single day. You know, have a sports show that they get on and do it every single day. But I guess if I had nothing else to do but this, I might be able to do it. But right now, with my current constraints, 2 days in a row almost made me crazy. I didn't shave today, Pete, because my hands were shaking so much from the NCAA tournament, I thought I might cut my throat. I know my hair looks messed up, but I kept brushing my hair, and I keep pounding myself in the head with the brush. I had to put the brush down because I'm just too excited today, just too pumped up. All right, we got Akron and Arizona today. Don't know much about this Akron team, but they are 28-6, and if you're UMass fans, you might want to get a look at this team because that's who you're going to be looking at next year in the MAC. And now you got Arizona, the number 4, 22-12. I don't know about them as a 4 seed, but they're loaded. They've got a really, really good team. I don't know why they have 12 losses, but man, they're pretty good. A 4 seed, that's egregious. Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the prairie. I don't see it, but they're in at 20-13. Who'd they get matched up with, Pete? Danny Hurley's UConn Huskies.
Look out.
Do the Huskies get hot, Pete?
I hope so.
Boy, that would be some story, huh?
I hope so.
After all they went through this year, if they finally just pull it together and go.
If
I don't know if they watch our
man.
show, but here I'm going to tell it to you again. Put both of those big guys in there together. Put Sampson and put the other guy in there together. Your 2 big guys. Put them in together and see if they can wear people down for a little bit. Because what's going on right there, especially defensively, is not working great for UConn right now. They didn't win the Big East tournament. St. John's handled them easily both times they played them. They got to kind of get recalibrated and got to kind of find that bag again, but we'll see if they can do it. They're an 8-9 game. I don't know for the life of me at 20-13 and almost dead last in the SEC how you got Oklahoma at a 9. This is where the whole thing went wild for me. It's not only with some of the selections that they made, which I thought were total genuflections to the weapons of math destruction, but also here now just in the seeding, really, really taking some teams and giving them bad seeds. I don't think, this 8-9 game, I just don't see it, Not for a team that's 20-13 and was .333 in their conference. That's the winning percentage they had in their conference, folks. And again, let's go into our home-away differential. They won 2 or 3 games total on the road this year, and they ate more cupcakes than anybody in the history of Division I this year. So Oklahoma, no shot. But again, they're a good team, good coach. They could do some things, and they give Connecticut some problems. I'll be excited to watch that one later. Xavier and Illinois. Oh, my goodness. I love this Xavier team because they got caught in a play-in game, and they dismantled Texas in that play-in game. Now they're coming to Illinois, and Illinois is very well coached, but they're mercurial. They've been very young, and the young youth movement that they have going on there has had moments where it's been great, and they look fabulous, and then it's had moments where they're injured, they're missing pieces, and they haven't looked so fabulous. I'm excited to see what happens, but I think Xavier wins here today, folks. I really do. I think some of those teams that we're saying all over television, they don't belong in. They don't belong in. Well, I can tell you that these coaches, Hubert Davis and Sean Miller, have been playing that on feedback on every film session that they take the team into.
Yeah.
You don't belong. You don't belong. You don't belong. Coaches know how to use this stuff. Coaches know how to motivate from this stuff. And right now, I guarantee you that's what's going on at Xavier. They're going up against a tough Illinois team. You gotta give Illinois their credit. But I don't think the Big Ten was as tough as the Big Ten met out to be this year, and I think you're seeing some of that. All right, ACC as well. ACC got punched in the lip a little bit yesterday. We'll see how it goes for them today. All right, you got Xavier-Illinois game, though, 21-12 for Illinois, 22-11 for Xavier. Xavier's the 11 seed and Illinois the 6, and you're coming off of a play-in game where they had to play Texas. So sometimes you might be a little tired after that play-in game, or you might have a really good vibe about your team because you're coming off a win, and right now you're playing with house money. You want to get into that full round, and I think Xavier playing in the play-in game, I didn't think that was warranted, honestly. Bryant, this is one of the good stories of the tournament. Go back, rewind the tape. They have a problem with their head coach, Jared Grasso. Fire Coach Grasso in the middle of the year. I congratulate their athletic director, their department, for doing a really, really good job of giving the job to Coach Martelli in the interim and then taking the interim tag off of him and letting him go. Now they have a really good team. Their lineup is built 6'5", 6'6" across the board, and I think that Michigan State's one of the hottest teams playing right now. But 23-11, Bryant is not going to be a pushover for them. And Michigan State going into 27-6, I expect them to win the game, but I do not think that this is going to be out of the realm of possibility for Bryant, just based on what I saw them play and based upon some of their transfers used to be high major guys. Some of their transfers that they have down there played at high level basketball, and they may not be as knocked off by Michigan State as some other teams might be. But let me tell you right now, Michigan State is really at a peak performance. If you want peak performance at the end of your season, right now, Michigan State's giving it to you. They're disciplined, they're focused, and the way that they attack the basket, man, they come down that floor looking to dunk just about everything. And then they spread the floor beautifully. They have shooters. But the whole thing with them, going back years and years ago, is Izzo, Camp Izzo. All right, what do they do when they start the NCAA tournament, Pete? They got all of their guys who are managers and GAs and all of this stuff, collect every single film they can get on every single body that they may play. Then they take their Steve machine, sound technical editor, video equipment machine. It's called Steve, something like that. I'm sure it's a new name by now because of the way stuff works. But then they go and they clip up every single game that they got into 15-minute clips, and they're going to put everything down that you got. If your head coach is chewing gum, they're going to know what flavor it is. If your manager wears sneakers to the game, they're going to know what brand it is. And if you got somebody that's out on the perimeter that's working this thing, you're never going to see anybody work it as well as Michigan State does. That's been their real tournament success over the years, is that Coach Izzo sets up camp and they break down film and they get it into manageable parts for their players that absolutely going on. Pete, can you give me an update on that Baylor game that's going on?
31-30 Baylor.
31-30 Baylor.
Down there in their bottom corner.
I think that's going to be a close game all the way home.
Do you want to dip in on the audio a little bit, see what you're talking about?
Sure.
Right there, a little fumbleitis. And Bird, you got excited about this one. This kid's got some talent. Right, that adjustment, a little kiss.
That's VJ Edgecombe right there.
Raleigh, or the outskirts of Raleigh.
We're going to talk about him being a first-round pick, probably in the top 10, you know, and had a little bit of injury this year. When they have him, Baylor's a different team. They have North Shore Ormir, the transfer from Miami as well. They played, I would say them and Auburn probably played the 1 and 2 toughest schedules of the year. Baylor went in. I said earlier in the year I thought that Coach Drew might have been an advanced scout for General Custer in another lifetime because he set up a bunch of little bighorns for his team. But now we're going to find out if that paid dividends. Now we're going to find out if that got them tournament tested, tournament ready to go. Pete, we got one more game to discuss here, and it's a team that I like. I thought the 5 seed for Oregon was a little bit lofty because they didn't take care of business in the Big Ten like I thought they would. I thought they had a possibility of winning the Big Ten, but instead they gave it up to Michigan, who went on and won the Big Ten. So Liberty and Oregon today, it's a 12 and a 5 seed. I like Oregon to win that game, but Liberty, really good. Really good program, really done well over the years. And I think that they are in a position right now to give Oregon some business. I think that might be one of the upsets that you might have of the day. If you're looking, we talked about some upsets yesterday. We said Michigan might be in trouble with UC San Diego. Okay? They were in trouble. A good part of the game, wound up winning the game by 3, and that was a really close game. But other than that, there were not a lot of upsets. We told you McNeese, with Coach Will Wade, I wasn't sure what the condition of that team was going to be in going into that game, what their mindset would be. But, boy, they really rose above everything and got an upset win as well. So if I go through them here for you, okay, if you go Baylor, Mississippi State, you're not going to have no upsets there. Lipscomb, Iowa State, possible, because the Lippies are tough, all right? Colorado State, I expect them to beat Memphis today. I listen to the guys in Vegas and what they think. They don't put money on the table if it's not there. And I think that Colorado State could be an upset special there. I don't think there's going to be too much other activity. And I'm going to tell you why. I think that the NCAA is really excited about getting all these Power 5 teams to go, about getting all these Power 5 teams up and ready to go. Is Akron and Arizona an upset special? It could be. It could be. I don't know about Bryant and Michigan State, but there's got to be one. You know, so far there hasn't really been that one big Cinderella. You go back to UMBC beating Virginia, that was a 16-1. You go back to Purdue losing to FDU, that was a 16-1. Now, nothing like that has occurred yesterday. We don't know if it's going to go Friday. We'll stay tuned. We'll be back to report to you and keep this thing posted. We promise also to get you a little bit of an NIT update. But Pete and I talked about this at lunch today, and we're just going to close our discussion with this. What does the NIT have to do in order to remain relevant? Pete, what do you think?
They need to either play before, which they really can't because of conference tournament championships, or they need to play completely after the NCAA tournament is done, or vice versa, or the NCAA needs to hold off for a week and let the NIT play out. And then kind of like what they do for football championships, you know, there's that week off where they have, you know, the teams going to the Super Bowl have that extra week off.
Do you think the crown now presents a real problem to the NIT?
Absolutely. It'll kill it.
Why?
Why? Because I think they're positioning themselves in the right place, which is just after the NCAA tournament, when basketball is at its fever pitch. College basketball is at its fever pitch when that national championship game. So it's fresh in everybody's minds. Now you're presenting a new tournament that's right on the heels of it. It's not separated by too much. It's right on the heels of it. And people are still going to be in the college basketball mood because nothing else is coming up just yet. There's a void there before the NBA kicks off their playoffs.
Are you ready for some empirical evidence to that as well?
Go ahead.
Empirical evidence is Boise State told the NIT no.
Yep.
And jumped in the crown. There's NIL money in the crown. You can win money. You can get $1 million.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. But where it is right now, as we said yesterday on the show, Pete, they're all little boy blue. They're all little boy blue. They all need the money. So does the NIT, what's the answer? When you got Crown paying $1 million for the title, you know, somebody going to go in there and get a big NIL bag. What does the NIT do?
I think you see it's going to fade away.
They moved it out of Madison Square Garden, mistake one. They moved it and made it a little bit less of an Eastern tournament, which now became this national conglomerate and started taking in all of these power conference drift-offs. Mistake number two. They run it at the same time as the NCAA tournament, which there is no bigger media entity. I mean, you're talking about the Super Bowl.
The NCAA March Madness tournament sucks the air out of the room.
It does. It takes it all out. Yeah. And you're talking about, you're going to say the Super Bowl, right? But is the World Series as big as March Madness?
No.
Probably not. So you got the number 1 or 2 entity in all of media, and the NIT is floating around and somewhere in the ethers there, and nobody even knows what's happening game to game, day to day.
NI who?
NI who? I love it. I love it. That's what we're going to go with from now, Pete. NI who? NI who? All right, we're there. An hour, solid hour, Pete. It was really good to have lunch with you and Harry today. Unbelievable to see more of my colleagues in the Community 15 family. But it was really, really good to sit down and just have a great lunch inside here at the Voc Tech, which I would say to all people out there, what an amazing lunch we had today. The students in there really work hard at their craft, and they're really, really amazing. So stop by and have lunch here because I think it's a really, really cool place. Yep. And I think it sends a message that we're supporting and advocating for these young people to go into their lives and do great stuff. So that's where I want to be. That's on the front edge of everything. Pete, we'll see you Thursday when we come back. Holy smokes, we'll have a lot to talk about then. Folks, you're in the zone.